Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show here on the channel where all we do is just take live questions. Sorry for the delay. You guys are tuning and watching live. Having a little bit of technical issue, but I think I've got a workaround for it, and hopefully everything will be fine throughout the rest of the show. At least I hope it will be. The last thing I need is for everything to just start falling apart. Anyway, here's how today's show goes, guys. I'm just going to take your questions. Now, I'm going to, first of all, start off with the leftover questions from the John Campea show a little bit earlier today, and then I will go through the other questions that you guys are asking live. So, without anything else getting in the way, let's jump into it with some of the leftover questions that we didn't get around to earlier. And we're going to start off with Hausenberg, who writes, what is the funniest movie you've ever seen? For me, it's Borat, and it's not even close. Borat was one of the first movies one of the only movies I've ever given a 10 out of 10 to on my first screening. I think I have 7, 8, or 9 movies that I've given 10 out of 10s to since I've been reviewing films. So, I mean, there's that. It didn't hold up quite as well for me the second and third time that I saw it, but the first experience was great. For me, the funniest movie I've ever seen is still 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think the 40-Year-Old Virgin to me is still the funniest and my favorite comedy of all time. Killing Joke Quinn writes, but John, over or under 99.9% that you do a whole show in a breakdancer gimmick like your old days, complete with voice and lingo. Love the show, by the way. You will never see me in my old breakdancing outfits again. Yeah, a lot of people think I'm joking when I say that, but nope, I used to be a breakdancer. It's true. It's unthinkable, but it's true. DHL official writes, do you think people would watch a Zorro reboot as a Netflix show in the style of, say, the first season of Marco Polo? Well, it all depends on the show. You know how I talk about with Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone? Any concept could theoretically work. Like, theoretically, any concept could theoretically work if it's done really great and in a certain way that the audience likes. So could theoretically a Netflix series work like that? Yeah, theoretically it could. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, but again, it all depends on how good the show is. That's really what it all comes down to. The concept is nice, like Zorro or something else, but really what would get people attached to it or not is how good or how bad the show is. Luis Francisco writes, did you watch the UFC last night? If so, what do you think about the Sage Northcutt fight? Some people are saying it was a robbery, but I think Sage won good. I haven't seen the card yet. I was out last night. My wife Ann and Corey and I were all out last night. Didn't get a chance. So when I did get home just before bed, I watched the Cowboy Don Cerrone fight, which was great, but I haven't watched the rest of the card yet. So I don't know. I'm hearing people rumbling about the Sage fight, but I haven't seen it yet myself, so I can't really comment on it yet. Bomb Squad writes, do you think Thanos can top Killmonger as a villain? Sure, he could. Will he? I mean, we'll have to see the movie to know. We really haven't gotten anything but single one-liners out of Thanos since the MCU began. I'll do it myself. Don't test my patience, boy, or whatever. Like, it's all been these very, very small sample sizes. Could he outdo Killmonger? Sure. Killmonger's not the greatest comic book villain we've ever had. He's great. One of the best the MCU has ever had, for sure. But can he be topped? Sure he could. Will it be Thanos? Don't know. Maybe Thanos will be great. Maybe he'll be terrible. We don't know. But could he? I think he can. It is possible for him to do that. Ben Jesusa writes, morning, John. Got no question for today. Just want you to say take my money. Thank you for the support, Ben. I appreciate that. Dakota Barber writes, thoughts on $1 Million Baby? I love it. I love it too. It's a great film. Controversial ending, but that's good. I like that. Just really showed what a terrific actress is in it, what a terrific director it had, what a terrific supporting actor it had. We were talking Eastwood, and look, it's a great movie. It's an absolutely wonderful movie. I love it. More people should see it. Douglas Phillips writes, love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Douglas. Appreciate that. Who Flung Poo writes, John, sorry if you've ever answered this, but thoughts on Mr. Plinkett, Red Letter Media, prequel reviews. Generally speaking, other than once in a while, I'll drop the fact that I love, say, how it should have ended or whatever. I don't like to talk about anybody else online, generally speaking. I mean, I used to in the past, but what I've discovered is no matter what I say, people either twist it to sound like something else. There's just no win. So I generally don't like to give any comments, and that's neither good nor bad, on anybody online, really. Unless, they're personal friends of mine or something like that. Bryant Diaz writes, do you ever think the meteor, which created vibranium in Black Panther, can be the final Infinity Stone? Perhaps this is what draws Thanos to Earth. Nah. I mean, it's a giant meteorite, number one, and it's huge. Whereas the Infinity Stones are these singularities. The comet that is vibranium that crashed the thing is something totally different. So no, I don't see that at all. Dwight Schrute writes, see the trailer for The Current War. Oh yeah, that trailer came out with Benedict Cumberbatch. The original trailer came out forever ago. If there was a new one that just came out, I haven't paid attention to it. But the trailer for Current War has been out there for a while. Michael Shannon, Benedict Cumberbatch, about the whole thing about the race to bring electricity everywhere. It looks fascinating. I think, is Daniel Bruhl in that too? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head if he is. I think he is. But anyway, yeah, I love... I love the trailer that I saw. Sorry, just trying to get caught up on something else here as somebody's sending me a message. Love the trailer, but I haven't seen any new one yet. Let's see. Yang Kirnschrich writes, with the success of Black Panther and Deadpool, will we see more superhero films in February? Love your show. Keep bringing the filthy. Well, the studios are looking at February now. I mean, look, here's the reality. You put the right movie in a particular month with certain competition, it can do great. And I think that's what we're learning. Before, there was a day when February wasn't really thought of all that much. Deadpool changed a lot of minds. We've seen other movies make money in those areas. I think we're going to get to a point pretty soon in the next couple of years where round the year, 12 months out of the year, people will drop decent films. I think there's an opportunity for like months like September, which are like dumping grounds right now, sort of. Even months like September could be really big months. January can be a really big month. I think we're just getting to the point now that so many big films are coming that they're going to want to spread it out a little bit more. And I think we're going to find out that any month can make money if you put the right movies in it. I think there's opportunities there for that. Bomb Squad writes, what do you think will be Infinity War's Rotten Tomatoes score? If most find the best MCU movie, what does that do for the box office opening? Well, I mean, I can't even guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score will be until I see the movie. Once I see the movie, I will have a guess what I think other people will think about it. But that's like asking me, John, will people like Infinity War? I have no idea. I haven't seen the movie yet. Once I see the movie, I will have a better idea about that. Now, if most find, and then you ask, if most people think it's the best MCU movie ever, what does that do to the box office? Well, I mean, huge. Everybody's already really looking forward to it. If everybody starts thinking it's the best MCU movie ever, then it's going to go bonkers at the box office. If people think it's the best movie ever, and people are not going to think it's the best movie ever, but that's just way too much hyperbole. But theoretically speaking, if people think it's the best movie ever, like the wide audience just think it's the best movie ever made, well, then it could challenge Avatar for the highest grossing box office film of all time. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But as far as like predicting what a Rotten Tomatoes meter will be, I got to see the movie first, and then I'll have a guess. Like I'll watch and say, okay, I liked it, but it's got this and this, which makes me think, generally speaking, the critic community, this much will like it, this much won't. But until I see the movie, I won't really have an opinion about that. You know what I'm saying? Anthony R. writes, good morning, John. Remember, this question came in this morning. I usually ask questions, but today I just want to say thank you. I have been following you for years, and you are my favorite YouTuber. Oh, thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate that very much, man. Seriously, thank you. Dylan Robbins writes, what qualifies you as a critic to be considered for press screening invites? I know you can be a YouTuber and get invited. Keep up the great work. Well, there's nothing you can do to earn or deserve to go to press screenings. You got to just be invited. So if the PR of a studio, if you're on their radar and they see you have a certain sized audience and they think you're a relatively fair reviewer, then they will invite you to their press screenings. It's just that simple. There's no form you need to fill out. There's no, oh, if I do this, this, and this, then I deserve to be. No, it's it's just if the PR departments of studios recognize you, they see you've got a certain sized audience. That's key. I get all these people. I get people sometimes who write to me and say, John, I've got a movie blog and it's got like 20 subscribers and 50 people watch their videos. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I mean, that's wonderful. But saying, how can I now get on press invites lists? And it's like, that's probably not going to put you on the studio's PR thing. And that's really all. There's no magic formula. There's no form you fill out, no certain button you push. It's just that you've got to have a channel or a blog that's big enough that gets you on their radar, and then they think you've got a big enough audience, and they think you're a fair enough reviewer that they invite you to their stuff. So that's really it. There's no magic bullet to it. It's really just kind of that simple. Hector Reyes writes, hey, John, big fan. Thank you so much, Hector. Been watching you for years. Just wanted to drop in and say hi and keep up the great work. What's with everybody being so nice today? You guys are being great today. It makes me suspicious. Just kidding. Troy Taylor writes, hey, John, love the show. How awesome would it be if we get to see the remaining Asgardians fight side by side with Wakandans in Infinity War? I don't know. I mean, there are these fantasy scenarios that comic book movie fans like me will come up with sometimes and think, wouldn't this be great? But then if you step back and really think about it, you go, well, actually, that would probably kind of be a jarbled mess. I don't know if I would like it. Also, let's not forget, I'm not even sure if the Asgardians get to Earth. Like, when you see how Thor Ragnarok ended with its end credits scene, and then you see Thor ends up floating around in space in the trailers, I'm not 100% sure that the Asgardians ever get to Earth. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying that. Don't twist my words. I'm just saying I'm not even sure at this point. So that's one of the big, like, what happens to the Asgardians? That's one of the first questions I want answered when I go in to see Infinity War is what the hell happened to the Asgardians? That's what I want to know. Maybe one name writes, theaters in my area always have more room. I saw Black Panther and also The Force Awakens on opening night, and there was maximum 12 to 15 people in the theater with me. Well, okay, I don't know where you're from. All I'm telling you is, in LA, I got on multiple theater chains websites looking for tickets because we decided earlier on Saturday that we wanted to go see Black Panther Saturday night. And then we also did that same thing on Sunday. We wanted to see something. And then last night, I was looking for tickets for today. And all I can tell you is going through almost all the theater chains, I had to look through about 25 to 45 different show times in about 18 different theaters. And never could I find theaters with like more than one seat available. Like several one seats, but like never, I couldn't even find two seats side by side. It was all just singles left. I mean, so I was crazy. So I can't speak to the theaters where you're from. I can't speak to that. All I'm telling you is that in the Los Angeles area, every frickin' theater, every frickin' screening, every frickin' seat was full for like days. It was absolutely crazy. Anuj writes, hey, John, big fan from India. Oh, thank you so much, Anuj. What are your thoughts on intermissions during films? It's a very common practice here, irrespective of the duration. You know what's funny? Somebody else from India brought that up on the John Campea show last week. His thoughts about intermissions. And I actually think I'm going to do a video about that. I've already started scribbling out some notes about doing an editorial video on the pros and cons of reintroducing, because remember, Hollywood films used to have intermissions, reintroducing the idea of intermissions in movies today. So I think I'm going to do a video about that. So let me hold on to my thoughts on that for now. And then probably later this week, I'll put that, Jonathan and I are going to work on that and see if I can get that editorial up. So it's just really interesting. You're the second person in like a week to ask me about it. Javier writes, hey, John, I've seen reactions from many people associating Black Panther's success solely to politics without acknowledging the film's actual quality. Why do people only focus on politics and not judge the film as its own? Well, I think there would be two mistakes here. One mistake is not to recognize that the social importance, some people define that as politics, the social importance and politics of it do play a role in it, for sure. It does play a role. It's an important film that way. It plays a role. However, it would be equally as erroneous to think that's all it was. It's like, really? So Marvel movies never have big opening weekends. Is that what you're saying? Like, if no Marvel movie ever had a big opening weekend, and then Black Panther came along and was the first Marvel movie to have a big opening weekend, then maybe you could say its success was solely based on the politics. But Black Panther was a super popular character in Captain America Civil War. Marvel movies all open big. So you put that together with, did the importance of the social message and the politics of it give it a little extra push? Sure, absolutely it gave it a little bit of an extra push. No doubt about that. But to write off this whole thing that it was solely because of the politics, then you're just ignorant. You're just ignorant and you're ignoring all of the facts. The facts that Marvel films open big. Black Panther was already an incredibly popular character because of his role in Civil War, and people loved him in Civil War. Now, it was going to open big. Did it get that extra push because of the politics? Sure. But if you're going to say it was just the politics of it, then you are just somebody who doesn't understand the movies and you don't really have a high opinion of facts, if that's the case. So that's how I would respond, at any rate. Old Flicks Joe writes, Black Panther, wow, 192 million. And that, remember, this came in earlier. Now we know it was 201 million. 192 million. Didn't expect that. Justice League couldn't even make that amount in their opening weekend. And they should have thoughts on that. Well, Justice League made less than half. I mean, Justice League made $97 million opening weekend. Black Panther made $201 million. Black Panther over its 3-day weekend, or sorry, over its 4-day weekend, remember, it was a long holiday weekend. Black Panther made more money in 4 days than Justice League did in its entire run in North America. Black Panther made more money in the domestic box office in 4 days than Justice League made in its domestic box office run in over 13 weeks of being in theater. Now, tell me again why the DC shouldn't reboot? I mean, anyway. Okay. K Major writes, hey, John, it's crazy when looking at the top 10 openings weekends. Marvel/Disney holds 8 of those spots. Popping champagne over at Disney. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think out of the top 8 spots, only one film, Jurassic World, is not a Disney film. Whether it's Star Wars or Marvel. I mean, they really are kind of dominating the space right now. And let's see if some of these other studios can pick up their game and start kicking some of those Disney movies out. I'd like to see some more competition here. Joseph writes, hey, John, have you seen the show The Good Place? Really creative, funny, and keeps things fresh every week. You should definitely check it out. You know what? I never saw it. It's the one with Ted Danson and Sarah Marshall. Why am I forgetting her name? Anyway, forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm forgetting her name. So then the other night I was doing some work in here. Ann and Kaori were out hanging out in the living room. And then I went out to the living room and they were watching The Good Place. I'm like, oh, it's funny. I've seen tons of commercials for this, but I never watched it. And they were a few episodes in. They said they really liked it. And I watched like 2 episodes in a row with them. I'm like, this is kind of funny. This is pretty funny. So I haven't seen more beyond that, but I do plan on watching more because like I said, I watched 2 episodes and I quite liked what I saw. So I'm going to give it more of a chance, I think. Jordan Miller writes, hey, John, I'm moving to Burbank within a year. Any apartment recommendations? Watch you every day and you're an inspiration, my friend. Keep it filthy. Well, first of all, great choice moving to Burbank. Seriously, out of all the greater LA area, this was by far my favorite place that I've lived. It's the only place I'll live in Burbank. Or, I mean, the only place I'll live in Los Angeles now is Burbank. It's great. No advice for apartments. Just look around. There's a lot of them. It is an expensive place to live. It's an expensive place to live. But, I mean, I spend more on rent on a under 1,000 square foot apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, than most people in the United States pay on their mortgage. It's stupid, but this is where I got to live. So yeah, just shop around, look around, and you'll find something you like. There's some really nice apartments here, as a matter of fact. Rex Cousins writes, I like to go to the movies more than my friends/family, but every time I go alone, I feel awkward. Any tips about going to the movies alone? Thanks. Oh, I got over that real fast. When I realized I just like going to the movies more than most of my friends do, I had to make a choice. Cut back on the amount of movies I go see, or just get comfortable with going alone. I opted to just get comfortable going alone. I have no problem going to the movies by myself. I have a good time, breeze in there, grab my popcorn, grab my seat, watch my movie and enjoy it and split and go home. I have a great time doing it. So I don't really have any tips about it other than to say, just do it. Once you do it a few more times, you feel much more comfortable doing it. I guarantee it. Kind of like going to a nudist beach. First time's tough. Second time's still awkward. Once you do it a few times, you feel totally fine. Just for the record, I've never been to a nudist beach, so there you go. Christian Lomas writes, I disagree that Marvel and DC need each other to succeed for the other to do well. The DCEU has been around for 5 years, and it hasn't affected Marvel. Marvel succeeds because of their constant quality. Okay, Christian, once again, people completely misquoting me. I have never said that in order for Marvel to have any success, DC has to succeed. But they do live in this symbiotic relationship where there is influence. The better DC does, Kevin Feige has said this himself, and he's absolutely right. The better DC does, and the higher quality movies they put out, and the better movie-going experience that DC films do for their audience, which is also the Marvel's audience, by the way, the better it is for Marvel. Not that Marvel needs it to survive, but it would be even better for them. Yes, maybe this one movie, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp makes, $780 million. Yay! But if DC also had a thriving, healthy, critic-loved, audience-loved cinematic universe, maybe that 780 turns into 805 or 810. I read a lot of comments from people saying, I'm done with comic book movies now, and I'm sick of comic movies because they've gone to a few in a row that they didn't like. If the genre is healthy across the board, it's just better for everybody. That doesn't mean that Ant-Man and the Wasp can't do well just because Justice League disappointed some people. But if you've got an environment where all the movies are doing better, they're putting out higher quality stuff and getting more people on board of the genre and turning less and less people away, that's better for everybody. That's better for everybody. You will never, ever convince me otherwise. Jeff Johns understands this. He said as much. Kevin Feige has said it as much. People who understand this space understand it. The better experience that other movies give their audience, the better it will be for you if you also put out quality content. Because more people are going to get in love with the genre and want to come back more. It's not going to turn you from a $100 billion movie to a $5 movie. No, or vice versa. But it does have influence. It does have sway. It will nudge the meter one way or the other. It is better for everybody. But it's, I've never said, people try to take my words and paint as if, well, if Justice League doesn't do well, then every Marvel movie that comes after it's going to fail. I have never said that. I've always been very, very cautious about how I've worded that. But if Justice League kicked ass, and if the audience and the critics and everybody loved it, I have a feeling, Thor Ragnarok would have been even better. I have a feeling Black Panther may have even done a little bit better than it did. It'll just be better for the whole genre, which elevates, the rising tide raises all ships sorts of thing. And the more bad comic book movies that get put out starts turning some average moviegoers off of the comic book movie genre, that hurts. It doesn't kill, but it hurts. It takes you from what maybe would have been an $815 million run to maybe a $795 million run. Don't think the $20 million doesn't mean anything. So anyway, that's just how I kind of see it, and I'm absolutely 100% that is the way this business works. I'm 100% convinced of that. Let's see. Jess and Than writes, I remember you said that Pixar is not just the best animation studio, but the best movie studio overall. Now would you say that Marvel is also one of the best studios? Well, I think I would if Marvel made anything other than comic book movies. Because you look at Pixar, the medium that Pixar uses is animated, but their movies are they're everything. You got a dinosaur movie, you got a monsters movie, you got a movie about Mexico's Day of the Dead, you've got a movie about race cars, you've got a movie about a little boy growing up with his toys, you got a movie the movies are so diverse. Yes, they're all in the medium of animation. That's the medium. But I think as much as I love, as much as I love Marvel movies, I don't think I would ever qualify them to be in the discussion of best movie studio when it's one genre. Yeah, they mess in a bunch of subgenres, but basically speaking, they just put out one kind of movie. A lot of diversity within that one kind of movie, yes, but they just do superhero films. So I as much as I love Marvel, I don't think I put them in that conversation, to be honest with you. I don't know. Well, maybe ask again in 5 years, but I just have a hard time seeing them as that. You know what I mean? Let's see. Israel Freeman writes, Feige says Black Panther was the best Marvel movie. You gotta be careful with how he worded it. I think he was very diplomatic in how he worded it. That was the basic gist of it, though. The basic thing is like he believes this is the best movie we've done. I don't agree with him at all. Like, at all. I think maybe I'll put Black Panther in my top 5 Marvel movies. And that's not bad out of 18. But to me, it's not. I mean, but hey, Kevin thinks it is. Kevin maybe thinks another movie is the worst one. I think, though, a head of a studio is usually going to say whichever movie they have in theaters right now is their best one. So let's see if Kevin is still saying that in 3 years. I don't know that he would be. But hey, it's great. I mean, either way, Black Panther's great. So there you go. Let's see. Kylis Menon writes, can I take my 50-year-old parents to Black Panther? They haven't seen any of the other MCU films. I think so. It wouldn't be bad just to show them Civil War, just so they understand the character. But I think one of the really good things about Black Panther is that because one of the people I saw Black Panther with had never watched any. Well, no, they had seen the first Avengers, but they hadn't seen any, and they might have seen Ant-Man. But basically speaking, they have not seen the vast majority of Marvel Cinematic Universe films, and they hadn't seen Civil War, and they never felt lost at all watching Black Panther. Because Black Panther does a really good job of just being its own isolated movie, and I think you're fine. I think you're good. I mean, other people might disagree with me, but you guys in the comments section, throw in there who have seen the movie. I think you're fine to go in and watch it with your parents, even if they had not seen the other ones, and I think they can still appreciate it. I do. Pardon me. All right. Next one. Desun Green writes, John, how does Black Panther outgross Justice League in 3 days? Well, technically it was 4 days. And it all, I put up an editorial today that basically is this. Black Panther's success highlights the state that the DCU is in. It is a commentary that Black Panther makes more money domestically in 4 days than Justice League does in 13 weeks. It is a commentary on the state of the health of the DCU in that cinematic universe. And it ain't good. It doesn't matter that I liked it. The facts are the facts. The numbers are black and white. There's no interpreting them. They're right there. Black Panther made more money in 4 days than Justice League did in its entire run. That's inconceivable, to quote Vincini of The Princess Bride. Inconceivable. It is inconceivable. And yet I still get people online, God bless them, they're fellow movie fans of mine. It's just, they're driving me crazy a little bit. I still get people on there, they say, John, the DCU doesn't need to reboot. Black Panther just made more money in 4 days than Justice League did in 13 weeks. John, DC doesn't need to reboot. Black Panther just made more money in 4 days than Justice League did in its entire run. By the way, Justice League, which should have been the biggest of the DCU movies, did the worst, was the worst performing movie in the DCEU. Tell me again everything's fine. Tell me again how everything's going to be fine. It reminds me of that cartoon of that little dog sitting in a tea shop drinking tea and the place is on fire. He's like, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. And then his chair's on fire. No, it's fine. Everything's fine. And then his face is melting off. I'm fine. I'm fine. Anyway, just everything's fine. DCU doesn't need to reboot. Everything's great. Anyway. Okay. Let's see. Deshaun also writes, Justice League worldwide box office. I want both to thrive. Well, I want them all to thrive too. That's because it's what's good for one is good for the other. The comic book genre will be healthier with a healthy, thriving, active, successful DCEU. That's what we want. That's what we need. I've liked the films, but that doesn't mean I stick my head in the sand and ignore the facts around me. So I think we all want great movies from both of these studios. The reason I want the DCEU to reboot, whether you agree with me or not, but the reason I want them to reboot is because I want them to be more successful. I want more people to love the DCEU movies. I want more people to get on board and enjoy these films, and I want them to have more success. Now, you may disagree with me that they should reboot, but I think we can commonly agree that we want them to succeed. And my motivation for constantly calling for them to reboot this thing is because I want them to succeed. I want them to do well. I want critics to love their films. I want the audiences as a whole to love their films. I want them to love them kind of like I've loved them. But it ain't going to happen if they just keep, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about here, folks. Move along. It's just not going to happen as long as that's the case. All right, now the last question I'll get to before we finally go over to the live ones comes us from Holy Jeebus, who writes, Black Panther was great, but the bad Korean accents, including even the native Korean speakers, took me out of the movie for a second. Have bad accents taken you out of a movie before? Well, I don't speak Korean, so I didn't hear anything wrong with the Korean accents. So that's just me. There you go. The only time bad accents have taken me out of the movie was Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was rough. That one hurt a couple of times. I'm not going to lie to you. That one hurt me a couple of times. All right. With that out of the way, guys, you guys who are watching live right now, you guys have been firing in questions. Let's go. I'm going to fire through as fast as I can. I need to wrap up the show at 3:45 because I've got a 4 o'clock screening of Black Panther I got to get to. So I'm going to rifle through a bunch of these just as fast as I can. If you haven't sent in a super chat question yet, guys, cut it off. And if I don't get to any of them, I promise I will get to them on the John Campea show tomorrow. Okay, guys? So, or not the John Campea show. I'll get to them on the next open mic. I promise if I don't get to any of them, I will answer those first on the next open mic. All right, let's run through these things. We are going to start off this one with Stephen Rowley, who writes, Hey, John, big fan. Thank you so much. What do you think is more impressive? Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman or Ryan Coogler with Black Panther? Thanks and keep it up. I'm going to go with Ryan Coogler. Now, you guys know how high of esteem I hold Patty Jenkins. I was popping bottles when they first announced she was going to direct Wonder Woman because she's amazing. I have respected Patty Jenkins. I've been like beside myself why this woman who directed this movie with all this Oscar buzz, got her leading actress an Academy Award, and yet she doesn't get offered another major film for 13 years. It makes no sense at all. However, I am going to lean towards the job Ryan Coogler did. Now, it also might be a little unfair because Ryan Coogler, let's face it, had higher caliber talent to work with. You know, when he's got Chadwick Boseman as his lead, like a real legit, honest to goodness, great actor, he's got a little bit more to work with. Maybe considering that, like, you know, I don't think Gal Gadot's a very good actress, and maybe that should make me lean more towards Patty Jenkins because of the job she was in. Tough, man. It's a tough call. It's a really tough. I'd have to think more about that. But it's a great question. Garrick writes, John, why do you dislike Martin Manhunter? Because he's dumb. Nothing to like about him. From my point of view, if you like him, that's great. For me, I just don't find anything likable about him. I find him to be a silly character. Not that you're silly if you like him. Not that you should find him silly. You asking me? Okay, I find him to be a silly character that just doesn't make any sense, and I can find far too many traits in him that I can just like in other characters, so it doesn't work for me. But I'm not going to try to convince anybody else not to like him. Doesn't work for me. David Crabtree writes, John, last week you answered a question about the sexiest female villain. For me, it's been the same answer since the movie came out when I was 15, Tia Carrere in True Lies. I am going to have a really hard time disagreeing with you about that, man. Tia Carrere in True Lies, my God, one of the sexiest female characters ever. Ever. I change my answer and I go to yours. I agree with you. It also helps that True Lies is my all-time favorite action film. But yeah, oh my gosh. And you know what's funny? I have bumped into her at least a dozen times. at different events and different things like that, and I have never worked up the guts to say hi. I've never had the guts to say hi to a pretty woman in my life, but yeah, just my goodness. Woo! Her in that movie. Just crazy. Digoto1 writes, Aquaman, Bumblebee, and Alita all open on the same day. Who do you think will likely move? Oh, I didn't realize they've all moved to the same day. Are you sure about that? I didn't realize that. Aquaman won't move. I know that. I got a feeling Bumblebee will move. I have a feeling Bumblebee will move because I think this is going to be the last. Nothing's official, by the way, but I think it's going to be the last film of this continuity of Transformers movies, and I think they wanted to do well to lead into whatever they're doing next. So I have a feeling they'll move Bumblebee. I don't know that for sure. I mean, it could be any one of them, or maybe none of them move. But if I had to pick one, I'll pick Bumblebee. Dakota Barber writes, favorite scene from Thor Ragnarok. Mine is the snake scene. Snake scene? Which scene is the snake scene? I've seen Thor Ragnarok like 10 times. I've already got the Blu-ray. The snake scene? I honestly don't know what we're talking about. Anyway, my favorite scene is the part after he's been fighting Hela. He comes in to join the rest of the battle on the bridge. And then they start playing Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song again. Like, I don't care. I start banging my head when I start hearing that. That's my favorite scene of the movie. I'm not quite sure what you mean by snake scene. Do you mean like the dragon thing? Because that's really awesome at the beginning of the movie, but I'm not quite sure what else, what other scene. I'm going to kick myself later when I realize what scene you're trying to talk about. Amin writes, can you please do a prediction video for the Oscars going through most categories, saying what you think should win, could win, and will win? I would love to see that. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm absolutely going to be doing a pre-Oscar video. 100% for sure. Absolutely, I will be. Steven Gonzalez writes, I agree with you with your views of Spider-Man becoming Iron Man Jr. I love the movie as well, but my main fault with the movie was the fact that they kept referencing the catalog of MCU characters. I mean, it's an MCU film. They're in the movie universe. I didn't mind that so much myself. I could see why it would rub some people the wrong way. For me, it didn't bother me so much. It's just, I adore the movie. I love Homecoming. But that it's still really, I will talk about this forever. I just wish they didn't try to make Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. Spider-Man is special enough on his own to make a great character. I didn't even mind the idea that he's kind of comes under the tutelage of Tony Stark. I just didn't need him to have an Iron Man suit that looks like a Spider-Man suit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm fairly certain pretty soon he's going to give him booster rockets in it too. I mean, I don't want it. Don't want it. Spider-Man's already special. Just let him be special. Justin Square writes, better crossover, Crisis on Earth X or Defenders? Ooh. Because Crisis on Earth X is one of the better things the CW has ever done with this whole Arrowverse. And I like them both immensely. They're both very different. You know what? I can't believe I'm going to say that. I'm going to go Crisis on Earth X. I think I actually enjoyed Crisis on Earth X more than Defenders. And I like Defenders. I did. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite thing that the Netflix stuff has done, but I liked it. But I think I'm going to go Crisis on Earth X. Yes, I will take Crisis on Earth X. Jacob Leaf writes, good video about the state of the DCEU. I love the DCEU, but more than anything, I want it to be successful. Here's hoping winning cures everything. Winning cures everything. But you still got to put yourself in the best opportunity and the best position to win. Like, we got to hit a basket to win. Okay. You're going to throw the ball up and it's either going to go in or it's not going to go in. But you can take the highest percentage shot. You can give yourself the best chances to win by making sure you put yourself in a spot where you're more than likely to hit the basket than instead of just heaving it from half court. Put yourself in the best position to win. And I just feel like right now, Warner Brothers is not putting themselves in the best position to succeed. And I'm not frustrated because I dislike Warner Brothers. I love Warner Brothers. But I'm frustrated because I love Warner Brothers and I see them not putting themselves in the best position to succeed. And that's why I get frustrated with them. Dirk Walker writes, Seems like Marvel is giving us a lot of movies at once and then making us wait. 3 movies in the first half of 2018, then a long wait until 2 movies close together in 2019, then another long wait. Good strategy? I don't think it's part of their strategy. I just think they're putting out their movies in the order they want to put them out in the months that they think their movies will do best. Putting themselves in the best position to succeed. Like, seriously, Dirk, you remind me of what I sound like sometimes. A real ungrateful brat. Because I come across like that all the time. Think about it. We are living in an era where we're getting 3 MCU movies in 1 year. Next year is an era where we're getting 2 MCU. It used to be you had to wait 3 years for the next comic book movie. You'd be lucky if you got 2 comic book movies a year. Now we're getting 7, 8, 9 comic book movies a year. So I really don't think they're looking at it as this big, long wait. When it used to be, you used to have to wait years in between. So no, I don't think there's anything. I don't think it's part of a strategy. I just think they're making the movies they want to make and then releasing them in the months that they think their movies have the best chance for their biggest success. And putting themselves in the position to succeed. Once again, So that's what I think they're doing. All right, Rex Cousin writes, I think if Aquaman gets good reviews, it will still have an average opening weekend, but will have legs and make some decent money. Thoughts? It's an uphill battle for Aquaman. Absolutely, it's possible. But with the mixed reactions that Justice League got, it's going to make a difficult thing even harder. If only $600+ million worth of people went out to go see Justice League with Aquaman, are they going to go out to see Aquaman without the rest of the Justice League? It is an uphill climb. But certainly, the better the movie is, the better chances it has to succeed. That part is a universal formula for sure, and it absolutely applies to Aquaman. Aquaman dramatically increases its chances of being successful with the better the movie is. Even if the movie's great, it doesn't guarantee it's going to be a blockbuster by any chance of the imagination. But the better the movie is, the better chance it has to succeed. Absolutely. Joe Rapazzo writes, hey, John, I'd love to see a Jim Henson biopic as well. But why hasn't it happened yet? No one bringing it up to studios or maybe rights issues? I have a feeling it's probably a mixture. It's probably very much a rights issue. I don't know that. But I think it probably very solidly has to do with the Henson estate and when they feel they want one done, how they would want it handled, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they want to be the main producers behind one of themselves. Maybe they want to get the right script together themselves and then take it to a studio and distributor. I mean, there's a lot of different variations, but I think the one thing you mentioned about the rights issues, whether it's coming from the family side or something else, I'm guessing that at the heart of us not getting a Jim Henson biopic yet probably has to do with rights. That's just my guess. Let's see. Chris Parker writes, have you seen Hans Zimmer live? Caught his show on his world tour, and it was phenomenal. On bucket list to see Williams at the Hollywood Bowl. Well, I've seen Williams at the Hollywood Bowl like 5 or 6 times now. It's amazing. Funny, a couple months ago, my friend Dorina had tickets for us to go see Hans Zimmer live. And then we ended up taking a trip to Vegas instead and ditched on the concert. And I think I kind of regret that because I love Hans Zimmer and I think I kind of regret it. But I also think I had a very good time in Vegas that particular weekend. So maybe I don't regret it all that much, but I want to see him live for sure. I do. House Heisenberg writes, what is the one movie you loved as a kid, then rewatched as an adult and realized it sucks? Space Jam for me. Honestly, I can't think of any. I've been asked that question before, and honestly, I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any that I loved as a kid, and then watched now and just went, "Oh, that's terrible." I really don't. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say I can't really think of any that do that to me. Van Sensei writes, does Black Panther become a $1 billion film? Yes, Black Panther will hit the $1 billion club. I had my doubts before. In recent weeks, I've started to think, I still didn't think it was going to hit 200 million opening weekend, and it just crawled over that. But in recent weeks, I've started thinking, yeah, I think it can get to $1 billion. And I think with this opening weekend, $201 million. I mean, let's put it this way. No other film that is in the $200 million opening weekend club has not also crossed $1 billion. Every film that is in the $200 million opening weekend club has crossed $1 billion. We're going to have to see how it does internationally, but yes, I do think I think Black Panther will do that. Maximum Effort writes, finally watched Coco last night. As a guitar player and lover of music in general, this movie resonated with me very deeply. Beautifully made film. I would not have blinked if it got a Best Picture nomination. I'm okay that it didn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay that Coco didn't get a Best Picture nomination, but I think there was an argument to be made that maybe it deserved one. There's an argument to be made it was one of the 10 best films of the year. It's a beautiful film. Just amazing movie, and I'm glad you saw it, Maximum. I'm glad you appreciated it the same way I did. Paul writes, watched Rogue One yesterday again. Feels like episode 3.5 a bit. Well, yeah, some people feel. I don't. To me, it happens in a small enough period of time that it really is its own movie. But, I mean, there's some people, and you can totally see why. Some people would feel like it's kind of like episode 3.5. I get that for sure. Except that, you know, if it was really episode 3.5, it would have focused on Obi-Wan and Anakin or Vader. Instead, it completely changes focus. The cameras are purely focused on an entirely new set of characters. And I think that alone kind of what makes it not be 3.5. You know what I'm saying? But I can totally see why you would see it that way. I do. Chris Martin writes, John, we need to hear your new single for Black Panther $200 million opening. Yeah, I said the other day, it's like, you know what? This was before the opening weekend. I said, I'm starting to think it might hit 200 million. I think I'm going to have to get my new hit song together. I was wrong about Black Panther not hitting 200 million. I'm probably going to have to compose that here pretty soon because it did indeed cross 200 million. So I was right. I need to get that song together. Chris Warden writes, after seeing the Solo trailer in IMAX on Sunday, I'm starting to think this movie might be big, as in $150 million opening weekend and $900 million worldwide big. You know what? It's funny. I mentioned this on my show the other day, but when I was in my screening of Black Panther, like with just a regular movie-going audience, I thought the Han Solo trailer was good, but I didn't think it was great. And with all the trailers that played in front of Black Panther, now your theater might have been different. I'm just telling you the theaters I was in, okay? Without a shadow of a doubt, without anything else being close, the trailer that got the biggest pop from the audience was the Solo trailer. And I was stunned. I was stunned. I thought there were a couple of trailers that were better, but people went nuts in the theaters I was in over the Solo trailer. And I'm like, what? Really? And I'm looking around, so, hey man, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Jimmy Gilente writes, my father died on Friday. Thanks for helping me deal. Jimmy, I am so sorry to hear about that. My father-in-law, Anne's dad, died last year. And it is one of the hardest things. It is one of the absolute hardest things. And heart goes out to you, man. Hang in there. And I'm hoping you're able to rely on a lot of friends and family around you to get you through that. So thank you for sharing that, man. And I'm glad you could be here with us. And I hope our show, you know, helps lighten your day a bit. So again, deepest condolences, Jimmy. Blake Carson writes, could J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in future Spider-Man films be an exception to the when rebooting, everything needs to be rebooted rule? Most know it's unrelated. You know, I've always said, I've done videos before in the past, that I think as a fan, the one exception, I've been saying this for a couple of years now, the one exception I would make is J. Jonah being played by J.K. Simmons. One of the reasons I think you could make a little exception there, and even then, let's be clear, I still think reboot. I do. But the reason why I wouldn't kick and scream if they did it is because even in the original Spider-Man movies, J. Jonah role was very, very small. It's a very small role. So if they treated it the same way, you could make an excuse for that. I still feel like reboot, but if they did it with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah, I could see the argument for maybe it working and being okay. Anthony911 writes, Coco was a masterpiece. It made me both sad and happy. I admit I almost broke down several times. It reminded me of my grandparents. Just curious about your experience with Coco. I loved it. And especially, without giving too many spoilers away, right near the end of the film, Oh my God. There are a number of times in that movie that you get choked up. It's so beautifully made, so beautifully done. It just makes your heart happy. I mean, it's such a special, great, wonderful film. Like, to me, I mean, nothing else came close as far as best animated film of the year. I mean, it's easily the best animated film of the year. And like I said, I think you can make an argument that it could have been nominated for Best Picture. Luis Francisco writes, I'll just take a couple more and then I got to split, guys. Luis Francisco writes, Galactus and Doom are also there if the Fox deal is completed. They can be the next new big bosses. Those two are such a badass. They can be compared with Thanos. Well, yeah, but you could come up with anybody. But look, it all depends on how the characters are used, right? We've seen Galactus in movies before. He wasn't used right, and it was terrible. Any character can be any mid-level, insignificant comic book character can be a genius character in a movie if used right. The best comic book character can be a totally waste if not used right in the movie. So, yeah, they could go with Galactus, but look, it doesn't matter. As long as they write a great villain, it doesn't matter if they use Galactus to fill that role, if they use Silver Surfer to fill that role, whatever. As long as they write great villains and use them the way, because really, 90% of the audience, 95% of the audience out there had never heard of Killmonger. Never heard of him. They used him a certain way in the movie, and it's primo. So, that's great if it's Galactus, but that doesn't make the movie any better. It won't. It all depends on how it's written and how they do it. And could it be good? Absolutely it could. So we'll just have to wait and see. Ben writes, 2006, two fantastic movies set in Africa. Blood Diamond, yep, and Last King of Scotland, yep, with our good friend Forrest Whitaker, who is also Zuri in Black Panther. Which do you like / appreciate more? Last King for me due to FW Forrest Whitaker's. I mean, yeah, I thought Blood Diamond was freaking awesome. Djimon Hounsou is also in that, and I love Djimon Hounsou. But it's the performance of Forrest Whitaker in Last King of Scotland. It is in my top 10 favorite male lead performances I've ever seen. You guys think, no, my number one is Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. But I think in that top 10 list, I think Forrest Whitaker in Last King of Scotland would have to be in there as well. All right, now final question of the day, guys, and then I'm going to have to cut it off. Chris Martin writes, so the news has come out that Lion King live action will only feature 4 songs from the soundtrack. Be Prepared is not one of them. Very sad. Yeah, I actually talked about that a little bit earlier today on the John Campea show. But you know what? We knew they weren't going to use every single song in it. This is a quote-unquote live action rendition of it. It's not the animated movie. It's not just a reboot per se. So we knew they weren't going to use all of them. I'll be honest with you. I'm thrilled they're using 4. I'm thrilled they're using that many. And if you had to leave 1 or 2 out, you can't leave out Circle of Life. You sure as hell can't leave out Hakuna Matata. So, I mean, so I get it. It's yeah, sure, I'll miss it, but I get it. You couldn't use all of them. It's not a flat-out musical, so I'm kind of okay with it. All right, guys. As I said, I'm going to take all the remaining ones that are here today, guys, you guys have sent in. And what I will do is I will either make a special video just for these remaining questions, or I'll answer these first on the next open mic thing we get around to, because I am running late. I got to get to a screening of Black Panther, my 5th screening of it. I got to run out and go see it. Thank you so much for joining me here, guys. Don't forget, we're back again tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for Star Wars Talk Tuesday, best day of the week. And of course, in the morning, the John Campea Show. I might also have a little surprise for everybody on the John Campea Show tomorrow morning. Keep your eyes open for that. Thanks for being here, guys. You guys are the best. I have so much fun doing these with you. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.